Rosamond Gifford Zoo. I'm mainly in charge of the elephants, and I'm going to be the person answering all your elephant questions today, so stay tuned. So our first question that came to us is a very easy one for me to answer, but it might not be an easy one for everyone else, and it's why do elephants have trunks? So an elephant's trunk is a great example of evolution and an adaptation. An elephant's trunk is much like our hands. So since the elephants are so tall and they really don't have appendages on their feet that can make it easy for them to eat, and their face is so far away from the ground, the trunk is a great adaptation for them to use to assist in feeding, exploring other things in their surroundings. The trunk actually has 100,000 muscles and ligaments just in the trunk alone with no bones, and it's the most sensitive part on an elephant's body. They use it to eat, explore the ground, explore food in other elephants' mouth, and it still actually is their nose. So we got quite a few questions about the elephant's trunk. The next question was, can elephants use their trunk like a straw to drink water? That's a really great question. Even though it looks like a straw, as you can see behind me with my lovely assistant Karina, generally elephants, what they do when they're drinking water with their trunk is they pull water up into their trunk and stop it at a certain point. Just like us, when you get water all the way up in the top of your nose, it doesn't feel very good, so they know exactly where to stop the water, and they actually blow that back into their mouth instead of drinking through it like a straw, and they can hold between 1 and 2 gallons of water in their trunk at a time. The next question we got about an elephant's trunk is, how many pounds can an elephant lift with just their trunk? That's a great question as well. An elephant can lift about 4% of their body weight with just their trunk alone, and they can push or pull about half of their body weight. So for an elephant like Karina behind me, she can lift between 200 and 300 pounds just with her trunk. So our question next was, how is Ajay doing, and is he meeting his milestone? Ajay is doing fantastic, thanks for asking. He is learning tons of new behaviors. At this age, Ajay is a little sponge. So elephants, unlike a lot of other species, learn all the behaviors that they need to know to be a good elephant throughout their life. And they learn those behaviors from their herd mates as well as their mom or the matriarch of the group. For us here at the zoo, there are a lot of really important behaviors that Ajay needs to learn very early on in life so that he can actively participate in his own healthcare and husbandry. So with proper training, we can train Ajay to do a lot of those behaviors in a stress-free environment so he can actively participate in his own healthcare. The important things that we need to teach him are blood draws, ultrasounds, x-rays, and even getting weighed every week so that we can make sure that he's maintaining a healthy weight. All of these things take a lot of different steps to train, and Ajay is doing great flying through these things to get to the milestones that he needs to meet very shortly here in his life. So the next question about our 2 younger elephants was, how do Batu and Ajay get along? Do they enjoy each other's company, and is Batu a good role model for Ajay? So as you can see, Batu and Ajay do get along, but they definitely have a brotherly relationship where they like to spar and pick on each other a bit. Batu is a role model, no matter whether he likes it or not, for Ajay. Being a little bit older of a bull, Ajay does look to Batu for some of the behaviors that he will eventually have to display to earn breeding rights in the wild. They definitely enjoy each other's company at times. They like to play, but Ajay does love the company of all the herd. And he's been a really great addition for us because he bounces around and brings out different behaviors with each elephant. Playful behaviors with Batu, but also some of those mothering and nurturing behaviors with Targa and Molly, as well as his aunties like Karina and Ramani, and he even brings out great behaviors in Doc. Another question we got was, how long do baby elephants stay with their mom? And that's a tough question because it's on a sliding scale. So elephants do nurse off their mom for anywhere between 2.5 to 3.5 years on average. So for at least that amount of time, they will always stay with their mom. After that, it gets a little bit more questionable as to how long they stay with their parent. A lot of times what we do here at the zoo is look for behavioral signs that an elephant may not want to be part of the herd anymore. And this is more specific to little bull elephants. Naturally, as bulls grow, they become more aggressive because this is the way they would earn breeding rights in the wild. So here at the zoo, what we like to do is watch the elephant's behavior to see when the females start to push the elephants, specifically the males, to the outskirts of the herd. And as you can see behind me while they're walking around, Batu is definitely towards the outskirts of the herd. He's wandering around here, but he's not necessarily looking for affection from his mom and grandma. And as he's gotten a lot older, as he's turning 5 in May, he's definitely started to become more and more independent. So our next question was, why do elephants flap their ears so much? It's a great question. Elephants actually use their ears to thermoregulate, so they can control the blood flow in their ears. So when it's really, really hot out, the elephants flap their ears a lot, which is most of the time when people come to visit us here in the summer. The elephants can actually open up their veins and increase blood flow and then flap their ears to cool down the blood that circulates back through their body. This is because elephants don't really have any sweat glands except for right above their toes. And as you can see behind me, Karina is not flapping her ears right now because it's a nice cool day out today. Okay, so our next question was, do elephants get super excited when it's feeding time? It's a good question, but as you can see behind me, elephants are constantly eating. They're actually what we call hind gut fermenters, so they have to be eating all the time in order to keep their gut moving, and they only digest about 60% of what they eat. So that makes it a lot harder for us to only feed them at certain times. They do, however, get super excited when we give them special types of enrichment. Watermelons in particular are one of their favorite, as well as jelly beans and other types of sweet treats. When they see those coming, they get very, very excited. So our next question was, do elephants require any special types of food in their diet? And just to piggyback on what we said before, elephants are constantly eating. In the wild, we would call these elephants browsers, which means that they eat over 100 different plant species in their native land. Here at the zoo, the majority of what they get is a mixture of timothy and orchard grass hay. Elephants cannot eat very rich hay because of their hind gut fermentation. If you did give them something very, very rich, it would cause them to get colic or have a very upset stomach, so we have to be cautious with that. However, there are other types of things that we give them to make sure that they get as much minerals and nutrition that they need. The first thing that we give them is what we call hay enhancer. And this is a special type of grain that's made specifically for animals like the elephants and other pachyderms like rhinos that are eating mainly hay and browsing on other plant species. And it gives them the minerals and nutrition that they need so that we don't have to give them those hundreds of different types of plant species. Another really important part of an elephant's diet is browse though. So here at this zoo, a lot of times what we use are things like bamboo, maple, and other types of leafy green plants. And those are really great forms of enrichment, but they're also really great for the elephant's dentition and diet. So our next question was about music. The question was, many elephants respond to music. Have we here at the Rosamond Gifford Zoo ever tried music enrichment with elephants? And it would be really interesting to see how they react. The answer to that question is yes. We use music enrichment quite a bit here at the zoo. Not necessarily people playing music, but we use radios, iPhones, speakers, all kinds of things to replicate what music might sound like in live time. Romany behind me here is one of our particular elephants that loves to listen to music a lot. Romany seems to really respond well to Adele. She also likes a lot of other easy listening music, but Romany is a special elephant here in our herd as well because she likes to make her own music. When Romany's outside on exhibit in her own time, she'll often find a rock or a stick to bang along the cables or along the bollards and make her own music, and she's actually very, very talented. She even plays the harmonica. Today, guys, please feel free to tune in next week when we answer all the questions you guys have about penguins.